Hi, my name is Serjan. I'm a tour guide in Turkey. With my friends and colleagues, we make videos about the 7 churches of Apocalypse in different languages. In this episode, we will visit the 3rd church of Asia, Pergamum. First of all, I would like to make one point clear. I'm not a religious authority, and the purpose of this video is to provide you a basic information about the biblical history and geography. I believe the more we learn the lives and the conditions of the first century Christians who were the first to receive the letters of John, the better we understand the Apocalypse. Therefore, in this episode, we will mention about 2 main traditions which affected the lives of first century Christians. First, the animal sacrifices in pagan temples and its effect on Christians. Then, the Roman cult, which is the veneration of the Roman emperors as gods. Before we start, let's have a look at today's city of Pergamum. Unlike the first 2 cities of the Apocalypse, Pergamum is not a coastal city. It is located 30 kilometers from the Aegean Sea, 100 kilometers north of Izmir, and 80 kilometers west of Thyatira. In the ancient city of Pergamum, there was an Acropolis, a high city where the most important buildings of the city were, and a low city where the common people were living. Today, on the top of the remains of the lower city is the current city of Pergamum. Behind the current city rises the hill of the Acropolis, where you can find the main remains of the Roman city. This hill nowadays is an open-air museum. In Greco-Roman cities, the Acropolis or the upper city always housed the most important buildings of the city. In the Acropolis of Pergamum, there were also important buildings such as several temples dedicated to different gods, a library, and an arsenal. For the tourists who visit Pergamum today, the most interesting building is the ancient theater. It is the most sloping theater of the Roman world. It has an inclination of 70 degrees and capacity of 10,000 spectators. In the Acropolis, we can also see the remains of 2 other buildings that have strong relationships with our affairs of this episode. The altar of Zeus, or the Great Altar, and the Temple of Trajan. Behind me, on the edge of the Acropolis hill, there are some pine trees and some ruins. 2,000 years ago, in this place was the most spectacular building of Pergamum. It was the altar of Zeus. Today, this building is in a museum in Berlin, Germany. In the Apocalypse, in the letter written for the church of Pergamum, is written thus: I know your works and where you dwell, where the seat of Satan is. For its architecture and its importance, this building is interpreted by many as this seat of Satan. As I said before, my goal is not to interpret the Bible. My goal is to talk about biblical history and geography. Now, we will talk about the pagan altars and the tradition of animal sacrifices. The sacrifice of animals was the main pagan ritual. The altar of Zeus, because of its extraordinary size, was an exception. Normally, in the pagan sanctuaries, the altar was a small construction outside and in front of the naos or the temple, where they were sacrificing the animals. They were sharing the meat of the slaughtered animal according to some rules. Sometimes they were selling some part in the markets. It was very important to share and eat this meat for the citizens. So they became part of the city or the pagan community. In the Apocalypse, in the letters written for Pergamum and Thyatira churches, it is criticized eating this meat sacrificed for the idols. Paul, in his first letter to the Corinthians, explains this matter in detail. He explains in what conditions you can eat or you cannot eat this meat. Another important building in the ancient city was a temple dedicated to Emperor Trajan. There are people who accept this building as the throne of Satan. This temple was built at least 2 decades after the Apocalypse. But the Imperial cult, or the veneration of the Roman emperors, was an important reality in the cities of Roman Asia. This Trajan temple did not exist when the letters arrived. But there were 3 other temples dedicated to 3 emperors in the 3 main cities of Asia. Here in Pergamum, there was another temple dedicated to the Emperor Augustus. This temple no longer exists. In Smyrna, there was a temple dedicated to Tiberius, and in the capital of Asia, in Ephesus, a temple dedicated to the Emperor Domitian. Romans wanted the people to venerate the emperors as gods. For pagans, that was not a problem. But for the Christians, it was unacceptable. For this reason, Christians were often punished. For the Christians of the first century, it was not easy to live in the Roman cities because of their faith. They were often discriminated, punished, and persecuted. But thanks to the faith, love, and courage of those who were the first to receive the Apocalypse, Christianity continued to grow. Well, my visit in Pergamum ends now, but our journey in the biblical geography and history continues. Next stop is Thyatira.